Voters in Hibbing are being asked to approve a referendum to help the school district stay afloat. The district is facing a $2.6 million deficit. As we reported last spring, the Hibbing School District laid off 34 staff members to balance its budget. In May, the Hibbing School Board approved a combined referendum approach, proposing a $1.3 million operating levy and a $1.3 million capital projects levy to address building upgrades, technology improvements, and staffing. Well, today, Northern News Now's Kyrie Johnson spoke with district leaders ahead of the big vote next week about why they say they need the money.
This ballot has two referendum questions that could shape the future of the Hibbing School District. Now, at the heart of it is whether or not voters approve to increase taxes to help the school with some educational challenges that they've been facing. With a $2.6 million deficit looming over the district, leaders have had to make difficult decisions. At risk are career academy classes and technical skills courses.
Our rising costs, we have to balance a budget, and we would most likely have to make more reductions if they didn't pass.
The first question on the ballot this November is about operating funds. That money could go toward any general fund expenses the school needs. The second question is a capital levy. Those funds would go toward ensuring those career and technical education offerings can continue. But it comes at a price for taxpayers in the area, considering the $2.6 million referendum would be in place for the next 10 years.
On a $175,000 home in our community, it's about $19 per month.
But the talk of tax increases seems to have the community on the fence for this referendum.
The biggest concern that folks have is that our area is being taxed. Not just by the school, county, city, other organizations are also in the same bind that we are.
The district says even if the referendum passes, they will not bring back the 34 positions they had to cut last year. But they hope keeping elective options will prepare their future workforce.
Our community relies on workers, and we need our students to be that next generation of workers.
McDonald adds that keeping students engaged by using classes that are relevant to their future is critical.
We were able to focus on strictly academics perhaps 27 years ago. Now we meet a lot of other needs for students.
Early voting is open and available at the school right through these doors up until November 4th. In Hibbing, Kyrie Johnson, Northern News Now.
Kyrie, thank you. Voting will be held at the Hibbing Armory again on November 4th. There is a cost calculator available online for taxpayers to determine exactly how much this tax levy would impact them. We have that link right now on our website.